Number one, here's how to get investors even if you have no network whatsoever. When I moved to San Francisco, I was 28. I didn't know a soul, not a friend, not a colleague. I just moved there because I wanted to learn everything there was about building software. That was my passion. I wanted to see if any of my crazy ideas would hold water with some of the smartest entrepreneurs in the world. And here's what I learned. Literally the best of the best move there. They execute, they network, they collaborate. And one of the things that was fascinating is watching these 20-year-olds raise millions of dollars for their ideas. Sometimes it was a napkin sketch, right? And I'd go to these coffee shops and meet these people and they're like, yeah, we just raised $15 million. I'm like, how? And they would tell me, and I'm like, that's crazy. Or another entrepreneur would be like, yeah, we just raised $7 million. I'm like, I don't get how you've done this. And my co-founder and I, Ethan, said, you know what? Maybe we should raise some money. So we decided to put a pitch deck together and start talking to people in the ecosystem. We reached out to my buddy Nivi. We reached out to my other friend Mark, and we just kept asking people, do you know any investors? Can you make the introductions? And we started having conversations. And quickly I realized that investors don't want to hear from you. They don't want to be pitched. They want to be introduced to you. And it's a big idea. Here's how it works. So when you're out there and you're trying to raise money, instead of cold emailing all these investors with like, this is the best startup and here's my pitch, here's how we're gonna make $1 bazillion, what you wanna do instead is get introduced to these investors through their trusted networks. My favorite way to do this, and I learned this from my buddy Tim, is you want to ask for advice and get an introduction. So if you know there's people that have recently raised money from investors that you admire, if you make your list of investors, then you want to reach out to those entrepreneurs that recently took money from them, ask them if they've got 7 minutes to get on a phone call to talk about their experience, to give you advice. And they're gonna do it because they remember what it was like when they first started. And through that process, if you do all the right steps in the conversations I'm going to teach you today, then they're eventually going to say, hey man, this sounds really cool. How can I help you? And in that moment, you can say, well, I noticed that this investor invested in your company. I'm wondering if you'd be open to making an introduction. And in that moment, that is your in. And the key is, and this is the ninja move I want to share with everybody, is you want to write the intro email for them. Do not allow a busy entrepreneur who's too busy to even respond to their own inbox, write an email introducing you to their investor. What I do instead is I'll craft it myself and I'll write it in a way that's very simple. I'll send it to the entrepreneur and I'll say, hey, here's an email that we've used with other investors. Feel free to edit and send it along the way. This way, even if you have no network, you can find people that have recently raised from investors that you want to talk to, ask for advice, make the spreadsheet, get that conversation going. And when they open the door, you can ask for an introduction using the language and the copy and the bullets that you want to share with that investors to really amplify the opportunity. 90% of the time, they'll take the meeting. Number two, you have to have a product demo that stops investors in their track. Here's how to do it. When I was starting my company, Clarity, I had this product that allowed entrepreneurs to get advice over the phone from other entrepreneurs. And it was really cool because essentially there was a marketplace and people would find experts. They would decide to request a call. The other person would accept it. They get on the call. That expert would get paid and the person would get the information, the knowledge, the wisdom that they needed to move their business forward. So I was like doing a lot of these calls with different entrepreneurs and doing the demos. And eventually I realized that I had a process for demoing my product that just dropped the mic. And this is what I did. I Ubered my way to Sand Hill Road. This is the street where literally there's hundreds of VCs that have their head offices in Silicon Valley. And I went to each VC that I had known in my previous fundraising process. And I just asked them, hey, do you want to see my new product? And of course they're like, yeah, you just sold your company. I'd love to see what you're working on now. And I would go into their office and I had the app ready to go on my phone. I would say, go to clarity.fm, and they would go there. It would prompt them to connect to Facebook. They would connect to Facebook Connect. It then created a profile on the back end of my phone. I would click the phone. It would call their number because it got it from Facebook. And then they would answer and they would hear, Clarity calling you, a request from Dan Martell. Click 1 to accept or 2 to deny, 1 to accept. And as soon as they did that, I would leave the room. I would go into the conference room and I'm talking to them on Clarity through their phone. And I would pitch them what my vision was. I would tell them about how I think it could allow all these social media influencers to monetize their audience, their attention, to create a new economy, a wisdom economy, to really unlock all this potential, these people that have experience and knowledge on how to do stuff with those that don't. And I do this call, I talk about the market size and the product and the team and everything and all the traction. And then I would hang up and I would go back into their office and I would say, check your email. And they'd be like, why? And when they opened up, it would say, you got a clarity payment. And it would show the amount of time we'd talk and the amount of money. I just paid them $1 a minute. And it would say, this is available for you to download on PayPal. And in that moment, I'd go, pretty cool, right? And they'd be like, holy moly. And I was like, okay, now I got to go. I got another meeting. But yeah, I just wanted to show you the prototype, the demo, follow up. Let's talk on email, what you think. And then I would leave. And that's what I think every entrepreneur needs to understand is when I'm going to meet with an investor and they go, all right, tell me what you're working on. Show the demo. Okay. It's a show, don't tell. You don't want to tell them about how great your product is. Show them how great your product is by having a demo that is orchestrated, that is designed to get them to go, holy crap, that's the coolest thing I've ever seen. We did this with Flowtown. I've done this and coached so many entrepreneurs to make sure that in the right moment, you drop the mic and the demo just sells the investor themselves. The rest of the questions are gonna come up, but the product demo is the most important to get right. Number 3, getting oversubscribed in your fundraising process so you can overcome investors' biggest objections. Here's what it is. When you're meeting with an investor, their biggest fear is for them to give you money and you not be able to raise the rest of the round that you're gonna need to grow the business. They don't wanna be the person holding the bag when you run out of money and they come back to you and they go, hey, I know we were supposed to get to this level of success or this amount of traction and we haven't gotten there. Could you write me another check? Like, no investor wants to be there. They want to know that you've gotten other people excited about the idea and they're supporting your fundraise. So the way you do this is you have the conversations, you get the introductions, you meet with the investors, you do the demo that blows their minds, gets them excited and want them to participate. But the language you use is critical. So what you want to do is when you're communicating is come off with a sense of confidence, a sense of urgency, a sense of like, this is 100% going to happen. And what you do is you ask this question. This will change the game on how the investor sees you, is you want to communicate to them and say, hey, it's very likely that we're going to get oversubscribed. And I'm just curious, when you invest, what level of commitment do you typically make? Because that'll allow us to understand how we design the composition of our round. Write that down, okay? You want the investor to think we are gonna be oversubscribed and we need to understand your level of commitment you usually make when you invest. Is it 50K, is it 100K, is it 500K? Because when we're deciding the composition of the round, you may or may not have an allocation. And if you use that language, it really sets the frame like, I'm gonna get this round done. I'm going to raise this money and I'd like for you to be involved, but if you don't tell me at what level you wanna be involved in, you may get kicked out of the round, which happens to investors all the time. So here's my tip. Ask yourself, have I practiced this? Have I sat down and role play with my co-founder? Do I know when to ask that question? What will I see from the investor in regards to their excitement or their interest to make that a very logical question and to write it down and almost come across with the level of confidence and certainty that this round is gonna get done.